I can't hear anyone.
Can you hear me, Roger?
Can you hear me,
I can
Roger?
hear you now. I can hear you.
Can you guys hear Ben Davis?
No, I can't. Yeah. I hear Ben now.
We're on mute over that lip, but we'll. Yours.
Well, for a how can they hear us?
Anyone hear the board meeting? I can't hear it.
We'll be unmuted shortly. We're just waiting for the meeting to begin.
Locally, though, we make sure that. Yeah. Think he's on. Looks like he's on Zoom. Alright. I call this meeting of the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board to order. The time is 10:03. With that, Sarah, please take the roll.
Senator Champion,
Here.
Senator Icorn. Senator Icorn. Senator Farnsworth,
Here.
Senator Hofstra,
Here.
Representative Davis,
Here.
Representative Weigel,
Present.
Representative Lizagard,
Present.
Representative Scrava,
Here,
Senator Icorn. Okay, we have 7 present, 1 excused.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to the approval of the May 28th minutes. And we'll do the minutes.
so moved.
All right, moved by Representative Scrava. With that, Sarah, please take the roll.
Senator Champion,
Aye.
Senator Icorn. Senator Farnsworth,
Aye.
Senator Hofstra,
Here, or aye, excuse me.
Representative Davis,
Nay.
Representative Weigel,
Aye.
Representative Lizagard,
Aye.
Representative Scrava,
Aye,
6 ayes, 1 nay, 1 excused.
With that, the minutes are approved. Okay, we'll move to our next item on the agenda, and we'll hear from our deputy commissioner this morning. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Thank you for attending today's meeting of the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Board. I am filling in for Commissioner Rukavina at this meeting as she is out of state with family on a previously planned trip. At today's board meeting, we will be reviewing a new economic assistance program proposed by the agency's business and community development staff in response to the severe flooding that took place in the city of Cook on June 18th. I believe it's important to emphasize the proposed program that will be presented today was made possible because of the establishment by past board members through legislation of the Highway 1 corridor account, which was created in 2006 through a 10 cents per ton allocation of the tax and collection tax. We believe the account was originally created to provide economic development funding for a specific project that did not come to fruition, and then was amended by legislation enacted in 2008 to be used for economic development projects residing along the Highway 1 corridor, specifically for the communities of Cook, Tower, Babbitt, or Ely. 5 small initiatives have been funded from the account over the years, and today the account retains a balance of nearly $4.3 million. It's also important to note that this proposed program is designed to supplement existing financial assistance programs available or soon to be available to flood impacted business owners at the local, state, and federal level. We want to acknowledge the assistance of other governmental and non-governmental and nonprofit partners, including St. Louis County, which has already been providing financial assistance to affected businesses. Before we review the proposed program, I would like to provide you with some background on the flood and updates pertaining to the agency's efforts to assist in the recovery of the impacted businesses. On June 18th, as we all know, the region received about 7 inches of rain within a 24-hour time period, causing the Little Fork River to breach its embankments and flood the city with more than 5 feet of water in some areas, resulting in extensive damage to infrastructure, homes, and businesses throughout the city. On June 20th, the St. Louis County Board of Commissioners declared a local state of disaster in response to flooding and other damage, noting the severe weather event on June 18th as the second worst natural disaster to hit the county in 30 years. On June 21st, agency staff helped coordinate tours of the damage in the region for Governor Walz and other key stakeholders, which included a tour of the city of Cook. On June 22nd, Governor Walz declared a peacetime emergency for regions of the state impacted by the storm. On June 28th, agency community development staff attended a Cook City Council flood response meeting as part of the agency's ongoing collaboration with flood impacted communities and listened to firsthand perspectives, issues, and concerns related to the extensive damage caused to businesses, homes, and public infrastructure. On July 16th, agency staff hosted a flood impacted business outreach meeting in Cook and met in person with many Cook businesses to better understand their respective recovery needs. Beginning later that day, agency staff started developing potential funding ideas that could lead to providing assistance to devastated business owners. This outline of events is very high level and doesn't really reflect all the efforts of our staff and many of our board members to understanding the entire situation and gaining the insights necessary to help effectively craft a proposal that will provide needed assistance to business owners of Cook impacted by the severe weather event. So before you for your consideration today, as will be presented by Community Development Director Whitney Ridlock and Executive Director of Business Development Matt Schoberg, the proposed Cook Economic Recovery Fund will offer Quick Start Economic Recovery grants designed to provide swift financial assistance to eligible business owners impacted by the flood, in addition to economic redevelopment loans that will provide a more substantial path to recovery for impacted businesses. While we recognize that we are not a disaster relief agency, as an economic development agency with access to an account that was specifically designed to provide funding for the city of Cook, we see this proposal as an important business and workforce retainment initiative. I'd like to close my comments by thanking you again for your time and working with us to help the people and businesses of Cook make a full recovery. I also want to express my gratitude to the agency staff for their exceptional dedication in assisting these business owners during this difficult period of time.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. I was gonna give some comments there, but then you kind of handled it there in the close. That was great. Any other comments from members of the board, or should we just move into the next item? Yes, Senator.
I guess, Mr. Chair, when would be appropriate to ask some questions and that sort of thing?
I think probably when we move into the resolution item.
Great.
All right, so with that, then we will just move into the resolution number 25-001. Mr. Schoberg and Ms. Ridlow.
Good morning, Chair Igo, members of the board. Today for your review and recommendation, we are presenting the City of Cook Economic Recovery Fund. The purpose of this fund is to provide financial assistance to businesses located in the city of Cook that were directly impacted by the flood that occurred on June 18th, 2024. The response is two-part. It includes Quick Start Economic Recovery Grants totaling $300,000. And the second part will be Cook Economic Redevelopment Loans for up to $2.2 million for a total agency investment of $2.5 million. The program funding will provide financial assistance to these business owners whose buildings and operations were directly impacted by the flood. The flood caused extensive damage to community infrastructure, businesses, and homes in Cook. As Deputy Betchika relayed, agency, community, and business development staff have been actively engaged with the city of Cook to better understand the short and the long-term needs. To provide financial assistance to businesses, this two-part response is recommended that includes grant and loan funding. The minimum eligibility requirements for both programs will be that the business must intend to reopen in the city of Cook. The business can demonstrate their need for their financial support, and the business must utilize all available insurance. First, I'll do a quick overview of the Quick Start Economic Recovery Grants. These grants will be available immediately to business owners who are operating in the city of Cook at the time of the flood, whose businesses located in a commercial area and who intend to reopen. Each business may be awarded one grant up to $15,000. Grant funds will be dispersed by the city of Cook based on submission of documentation that quantifies that loss, such as receipts dated after the flood or invoices for purchases made. Eligible uses of the grant funding include a wide variety of things, including the replacement of lost inventory, replacement of machinery, equipment, or furniture, supplies, building rehab, architecture and engineering services related to building repair or building new, demolition, utility bills, and other operational expenses as approved by agency staff. With that, I'll pass it over to Director Schulberg to review the loan component.
Thanks, Whitney. Mr. Chair, members of the board. The loan component of this is a work in process. We are well along on determining what the guidelines will look like, but we haven't finalized those yet. In all likelihood, we're working with a partner. We've had several discussions with the Entrepreneur Fund, who is, as some of you may recall, during the pandemic, we rolled out a relief loan program, if you will, to assist with businesses to stay open or reopen after the pandemic. So we're working closely with them. Our hope would be that we would have an arrangement with them. We would pass the money, the agency monies, the highway monies that we're talking about through the city of Cook. And we would then work with the Entrepreneur Fund. The hope would be that if it's them or there are other organizations that we could, it's just a lot easier for us, especially on these smaller, if you will, loans, to have them originate the loan, to administer the loan. So the money would go to the city of Cook. We would get applications. The Entrepreneur Fund would make a recommendation to fund the loan. Agency staff would look at it, give them the thumbs up. Then the city would release the money to the Entrepreneur Fund. The loans would be set up. We are having discussions. We haven't finalized that with potential forgiveness should a business reopen or stay open, whatever the case may be, and continue to operate for 5 years. Some or all of the loan would have the potential to be forgiven. The loans will be very good money as far as potentially a subordinate collateral position we're discussing, which is not typical for agency finance, but given the situation here, we're willing to consider that. They'll be very low, if any interest at all. I'm thinking 2% max. Again, these are all things that are a work in process, but we are, we want to get through this so that we keep moving forward with the program. And don't hold it up at all. They'll be available to business owners in the city of Cook. Will be designed to, our funding would be designed to supplement other funding that might be available. Other state and or federal relief programs. And any loan repayments, would be retained by the city of Cook for future, economic development projects. With that, we'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, and I guess we'll start with you, Senator Hutchell.
Sure, thank you guys for the response and for going to the community and meeting with the constituents down there, out there, I should say. I think that's really important, and I know that there's a lot of frustration, right, in the communities among the community members, business owners, and I think that's pretty natural in these situations. But I am grateful that the agency sort of stepped into this role despite what you mentioned, Deputy Commissioner, about it. You know, we're not made for disaster response, but the agency does have resources set up for this region specifically for economic development. And if it's not recovery, if we don't get these businesses back open, any sort of future looking economic development can't happen. So just really grateful that that's happened. I do want to just put it on the record that Representative Scraba and I, representing the area, did send a letter to FEMA asking for individual assistance. I'm not overly confident about that, but what that does essentially is it allows FEMA to provide individual assistance beyond just public infrastructure for businesses and homeowners. It does have a pretty high threshold for damages, so I'm not certain if Cook or other communities will benefit, but I did want to make sure that they were notified by the local legislators about that. And we did also send it to our federal delegation members as well, so hoping for their support. Regarding the actual program that we're structuring, you mentioned that Ms. Ridlon, that they can only apply for one grant. I'm just a little concerned about the amount of the grants, 15,000, just seeing some of the businesses firsthand and the extent of the damages. Do we feel like 15,000 will be enough to truly jumpstart the Comet Theater, or the cafe, the laundromat, all of these different places that have been impacted? And what was kind of the decision making on 15,000 being the threshold?
Senator Housechild, after agency staff visited with businesses in Cook, we've met with 10 businesses. We've heard numbers ranging from up to 20 businesses impacted. So the idea was to provide some funding where every business would have the opportunity to access the $15,000 and balance the short-term needs with the long-term recovery rebuild needs.
Okay, and was that amount brought up during those meetings? I would imagine not. Yeah. Cool. And then for the loan portion of the program, I noticed in the agenda and the packet that it's possible for them to be forgivable. That's kind of been the tradition on a couple of other loans that the agency has done. My concern is, given the size of some of these businesses and being family owned and small businesses, if there isn't a guarantee for forgiveness, I worry about some of these businesses taking on loans. What has been the agency's sense on that, and what is the likelihood of forgiveness on any sort of larger loans to some of these businesses?
Senator Hallschild, Mr. Chair. The eligibility for forgiveness will likely be tied to, number one, staying in business for a period of time. And number two, to meet certain benchmarks likely tied to employment, economic activity, those types of things. So there won't be any debt service on principal on any potentially forgivable portion of the loan. And certainly our hope is that they would be eligible for the forgiveness after the 5 years or whatever that period, and 5 years is what we've been discussing. So they wouldn't have to pay it back during the period if they're in business and operating after 5 years. At that point, it's forgiven.
So the only other piece I have is opening up Pandora's box a little bit, and that is about other Highway 1 communities. the two that I can think of, and I actually need a clarification on the Highway 1 fund that was established in statute. Can you, Deputy Commissioner, or someone else, tell me what in statute describes which communities can receive support?
Deputy Commissioner.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator House. I think I'm going to deflect that question to our legal counsel.
Okay.
Who would have good knowledge of that.
The original, thank you. The original statute, 298-2961, did specifically state that it was for the communities of Cook, Ely, Babbitt, or Tower.
Okay. And is that still in statute, do you know?
Yes,
Okay, so that's sort of confirm what it is. So I just want to bring up two other communities that have reached out, specifically one in those four communities. Babbitt, the golf course in Babbitt is, from my understanding, on city land, but it is leased to a private nonprofit. And they have struggled with costs associated with flooding, from my understanding, at about $10,000. And that's not counting, impacts on business, just purely flood damages. And so curious if you all have heard from Babbitt on that specific case, and if there is any possibility for a Highway 1 fund to be utilized in other communities for business.
Mr. Lynn.
Chair Senator Housechild. The agency staff has been in contact with the Babbitt Golf Course. We're aware of those and we're exploring how we could assess that project. For other funding mechanisms.
Great. Well, then lastly, I would just be remiss not to bring up the community of Finland. That was probably one of the other communities in northern Minnesota that was most impacted by flooding. Realizing it's not one of the four communities, but it is on Highway 1. And there was a lot of devastation for some small businesses in that community. And a lot of stories of sort of terrible experiences from homeowners as well, but would love to explore where the agency might be able to be involved there, given it is in the TRA and along Highway 1, understanding that it doesn't necessarily fit the statute in this case, but definitely a community that was heavily impacted by the flash flooding and that. With that, grateful for the program and interested in sort of continuing to follow some of those details on forgiveness and the grant sizes and how that process plays out in the community. And I'll be in touch with the city and business owners to sort of get their pulse on how it's going as well. But just grateful for all of your work and excited for us to get this going.
Thanks, Senator Housechild. Is there any questions on the Zoom or comments right now?
Yes. Representative Scraba. Can I go? Hello?
You are good to go, Representative Scraba.
Okay, sorry. So in Finland, I think I caught Senator Hochschild. Finland had some damage, and yes, I'm trying to figure out how to get the Highway 1 corridor thing, but there's a business to be closing because of the flood, so we can work on that in the future here. One of the things the Cook loan, if they're just going to pay the interest for the 5 years, and that is that interest that goes into the Cook Community Redevelopment Fund, whatever they want to call it, is that part of the deal? Is that what's going to happen?
Mr. Chair, Representative Straba, we haven't worked those details out yet. There will be ongoing expenses in administering the program. So if there is an interest rate on the loans, a nominal interest rate, if there is, those monies would likely go to pay for the organization that would be servicing it. Any principal repayments, and again, we aren't. We're well along the way with the guidelines, but what's eligible for forgiveness, how much may be forgiven, how much may they have to pay back? Any principal repayments would go, we envision would go to the city.
Representative Scott.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and then I think I saw Senator Acorn had his hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry about earlier. I was having a little problem with my audio when we were doing the roll call in the minutes, so obviously working now. Couple things. First of all, just want to highlight, thank you to the agency for putting this together quickly. Really appreciate it. It really highlights the good work the agency can do when the legislature doesn't dictate how funds are spent. With that said, I do have a curiosity about the fund here. I'm looking at the sheet that there's about 4.2 million in the fund, and it looks like the fund was from 2006, and then we get some interest earnings every year. How was that fund refilled? I do share, I think it was some of Senator Housechild's concerns about the fund in general. Is there a mechanism for this fund to continue to get refilled should we ever end up in a position like this again where those communities need some assistance? What is the mechanism to make sure this account stays available for those communities?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, how this works now, it originated in 2006. And I had to set up a specific appropriation that earns interest every month that is paid back then from the State Board of Investment. And that's how it's accumulated from the original, 3.8 now to the 4.2, less the 5 projects that we did. So every month we get, interest earnings posted that runs through the State Board of Investment.
Senator Edward.
That makes sense. I don't know if we need to look at that fund as a whole more generally later to make sure that the fund stays whole, that there's money for those communities. Would there have been a different fund within the agency that possibly could have been used? I hate seeing drain some of that fund, but I do understand how important it is, and I'm glad we've got the funds available to be able to make this work for those communities. So that would be my other question. And then I also share the concern that the $15,000 amount seems a little low on the grant side. Just want to make sure those businesses are able to get back up on their feet and able to thrive in those communities. So that's all I have for questions at this time, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and Senator Icorn, just speaking to the fund itself and why we're using it, that money has been available to the agency for almost 18 years, and we've funded 5 very, very small projects or initiatives over the course of time. And we've been looking for uses for that fund, and this almost seemed like the perfect idea to use it for this particular purpose. And Commissioner Ricavina also, wanted to keep back some money, so we decided 2.5 million seemed like a reasonable amount to go forward for this time. But it had just been sitting for basically 18 years without being used.
All right. Any other questions or comments from members of the board? Representative, thank you.
I did have a question, but I can wait. This is Senator Champion.
No, sorry, Senator Champion, I did not see your hand up. You're good to go. Representative you need the floor. You're a senator.
So my question is, Mr. Chair, is what would be the appropriate action to take if I want to make a motion that each business be awarded up to maybe 20,000 or 30,000, especially if there's some questions or concern around the amount of the grants. It doesn't mean you have to give them that amount of money, but maybe award it up to some other dollar figure that the staff could, have available, but really use great discretion around how they're spending the money. And I believe the staff would do that anyway, but I'm just suggesting that because I've heard it from 2 different people, Senator Icorn, but of course, I heard it first from Senator Houschild, who, has that insight as well. So, Mr. Chair, maybe that's a question for you.
Thanks, Senator Champion. I think when we look at the numbers, the way the math is set up is that there are basically 20 businesses in conversation right now. So the way it's divvied up is that there's 20 businesses that can get 15. My worry is if we did that motion right now to amend it, we could see businesses all of a sudden now not getting their fair share of that 15. But I think that's a conversation we can have on an agency level with the staff here about moving forward with it as our figuring out the other part of the program, which would be the redevelopment loans. especially if the loan's saying that's gonna be basically forgivable. You know, I think that 15 is just to get money in people's pocket right away. And I would hate to see other businesses affected if we made that motion today. So, I think that's where we should probably leave it and just have conversations with the agency, outside of that.
And so, Mr. Chair, just one follow-up. So are you saying to me that the staff and the agency already has the authority to move that number in the event that they believe that there is a business that should receive a little more than $15,000 in order to have real impact on their sustainability in the region? If that's what you're telling me, and I don't see that in the language, I would hope that you could just, help me, because I'm new to the board.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. I mean, I guess I'll go to legal on that. I mean, I believe the commissioner would have authority to work within these guidelines a little bit, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, and certainly the staff would make sure that the businesses are getting the appropriate amount related to rebuilding after the flooding.
Yeah, so it sounds like we'll have the flexibility to do that, Senator Champion. So I think that just because of that, we should make sure to keep it this way. And as the projects come together and we start hearing things, I'm sure we'll find a way, right? If a business finds a way and says, oh my gosh, if we had an extra $1,500, this would get us this much closer. I'm sure as an agency, as a team, as a board, we would find ways to make sure we don't leave anyone out.
Thank you. Again, I'm just looking at the pure language that's articulated in our recovery fund language and quick start economic recovery grants and the language that's there. But if you believe that's okay, then I'll take your word for it. And if staff believes that is appropriate, sounds good. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Representative Lister?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank the staff and the agency, the mayor of Cook, for meeting the very, very difficult moment that your community has faced, and this agency, your ability to be flexible and to provide those resources is exactly what this agency is about. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Representative Lister. Senator Hutchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to Senator Champion's point, thank you for sort of being more explicit with the comments. I think I would feel more comfortable if we had some sort of motion expressing that the grants can be higher, and to give the agency flexibility in whatever motion we're passing to either move the loan funds to grants or to provide higher amounts. Should one of the 20 only need 5, why wouldn't we be more explicit with the agency to say you can give 25,000 to another business? I think there were some businesses that were impacted more, others that were not. What I understand is that this board is advisory, so the agency and the commissioner do have the authority. However, we have been sort of operating in a way where we needed to have an emergency meeting in order to pass some sort of motion for this program. I think I would feel more comfortable representing that community, saying, should a business need more, they have the authority to just move forward, the flexibility, the agency can do it, rather than having to call back an emergency meeting to do so, or feel like they're going against what the board advised. So I would make a motion that we increase the grants to 25,000, Mr. Chair, with the flexibility for the agency to take that from the Highway 1 corridor account via the loan program they established or the remaining funds.
Second.
We don't allow oral amendments in the house, so you gotta give me a break here.
Oh, I
learned as I go.
Yeah. That's fine.
We aren't fun like the Senate. So in terms of the resolution, it's what I'm trying to, it was just. Is that's where it's actually done.
Should this be up to though?
Did I say? I think I said that, or I meant to. Yeah.
So just amend the attachment and then it just goes to the commissioner as our recommended changes. It's actually. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I just, well, I think some staff are talking, I mean, I'm happy to hear from staff. I know you provided your recommendation. the idea here is to provide flexibility, be more explicit with our guidance as an advisory board. I just don't want a scenario to play out where another 2 weeks go by, the staff go and meet with the community and a business reaches out to me as the senator or Representative Scraba as the representative and says, what the heck did you guys just do approving 15,000, we actually need, X amount.
So I'll just make a comment to that because like you said, we are making a recommendation. I think the commissioner will be briefed on everything we're saying today. Before this is approved and goes to the board, she'll be able to make those changes along with working with the staff here who've not heard it. And that's where we can go through and do this motion. I think it's almost better for us as a timeline to work as board members with the agency and with our commissioner to make that ironed out because again, that's where the change is gonna happen anyways, when the commissioner makes the final approval. So if you're comfortable, I think it's better for us to have this conversation. I mean, we can make the change, it's just, there's no. I want to make sure we're flexible with our staff here who are working around the clock right now to get us to our point where we're at right now. So that's just I would hate to see that grant program affected. Precedent wise, it's better to work that way than the other way.
So, Mr. Chair and members of the IRRB staff or deputy commissioner, if we do not approve a formal recommendation right now to increase it from 15,000 up to 25,000, will the commissioner hear these concerns and can she and the staff make changes to this program after our recommendation without calling an emergency meeting and delaying this further? Or will we need to come back and provide approval of the updated program?
Since you want to go on the legal side, I believe that because we're approving the dollars, she'll have full flexibility to change before her final approval, correct?
That would be my interpretation of the authority granted under the statutes.
Which is pretty regular occurrence too through this board's action when the commissioner sits here and we have these conversations. That's why we usually don't change the material in front of us because it happens that way.
I still think I could be comfortable increasing it to 25. I don't think that's that big of a change. And it puts the stamp on it saying the board really wants the agency to consider that. I'm just a little worried that we're gonna hear back from businesses that the 15 is not enough. And I think enough folks have expressed it from Senator Eichhorn, myself, Senator Champion, and I don't know how Representative Scrabble feels, but.
Is there any further discussion, I guess, from members of the board who are virtual right now?
Yeah,
Yes.
Can I speak?
Go ahead, Roger.
sorry, I can't find my raising hand. Number one, I'm fine with going to 25,000. Again, I think the commissioner, the intent here, and I'll say it, even though we're not talking about it, if you're gonna get a forgivable loan, and that's up to whatever that is determined, that's a grant. So if you want them to stay for 5 years, you give them a grant for 15 to help them clean up now, and then you get a bigger grant if you stay. If you give them the big grant up front, they might just have like, I'll fix it and then I'm leaving. Not that that's bad, but the intent, I think, giving them a $15,000 grant, and then you give them a loan, a forgivable loan, if you stay, there's impetus for you to stay there, to stay with the community, and we'll stay with you, by giving you that money. So that's how I view it. I'm okay with going to 25. I think the pool of money that we're choosing from is the right pool of money, that Highway 1 corridor money. Senator Champion and Senator Hoschild, Senator Eichhorn, I agree that 25,000 would be for most of probably breathing room without having to go to a loan. But if they do go to the loan, they know that there's more available if they invest in their community. And that's where I wanted to just get my word in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Scrabble. Lead Representative Davis, you were trying to speak as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the IRRR for the work they've put into this. It is very much appreciated. completely supportive of us helping this community that's been devastated. And, you know, I'm hearing both sides of the argument. I could go either way with it, but I think there's one thing that's been proven. I mean, we opened the door in our last board meeting where the board disapproved something and the commissioner just made the decision to approve it anyway. So, I mean, the commissioner, she can do more than what we approve. We're just an advisory board, and Senator Housechild, I thank you for pointing that out. But Senator Housechild, I would be in support of your motion. Mr. Chair, I completely understand where you're coming from too. You know, the IRRR has been working hard on this, and the commissioner does have the authority already. Again, it's been proven to do what's necessary, and so that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I can say and give my 2 cents, I thank you for everything I've heard. Thank you for just hearing us, recognizing that this board is advisory. We recognize that the commissioner has discretion, which I think is appropriate. Whenever a commissioner collects a cross-section of information, they make better decisions, whatever that decision is. So I trust this commissioner. I just think it's always important for us to provide our thoughts to the commissioner, whatever that is, right? And in her discretion, she'll consider it and then make an important decision. But I do think these businesses, as Senator Housechild has talked about, has some real needs. I do recognize that if there's the potential for the loan to become forgivable and therefore it's a grant, the agency and the commissioner is in the best position by which to dissect the information and to determine what amount, if any, should be given to an important business up in the area. So I would hope that we would, really consider that language of being up to $25,000. That's just our opinion, but the commissioner will make an informed decision, having our input put forward. So thank you so very much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Wright, thank you, Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I completely agree with some of the comments I've heard from Senator Champion, and I do support Senator Houschild's idea here to move this up to 25. The way I see it is $15,000 really doesn't go very far nowadays. And from what I'm hearing, we want to have just enough money to be able to get these businesses to keep going and then still have that loan piece, which I think is good. And $25,000 in some cases might not still be enough, but I think that's just enough of a bump that can get some of these businesses that really need to get over the hump what they need to be able to keep operating, even if they don't stay for 5 years. I do think that's a great idea to do, just again, because $15,000 really doesn't go that far nowadays. And that truly probably isn't going to be enough to get some of these businesses to where they need to be to keep operating. So you don't hear a lot of kumbaya amongst Republicans and Democrats, but it is nice to hear that we're all on the same page with this and we all want to get money out the door to help these communities out. And I do think Senator Houschild's idea to up it to 25 is a good idea. So I will be supporting that.
Thank you, Senator Egbert. I think Senator Houscheld, you have some language prepared now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the discussion about all the members of the board. I will make a motion to amend Exhibit A, number 1, paragraph B, to strike 15,000 and replace it with 25,000.
All right, Senator Houscheld, I believe Representative Blisker second, and with that, we'll just go right to a vote to change that language then. Sarah, please take the roll.
Senator Champion,
Aye.
Senator Egbert,
Aye.
Senator Farnsworth,
Aye.
Senator Rothschild,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
Aye.
Representative Weigel,
Aye.
Representative Blisker,
Aye.
Representative Scrabble.
C.
It's 8 ayes.
With that, the motion prevails and we've amended Exhibit A, Section B to now say $25,000. All right, with that, is there any further questions or comments to the discussion or the motion in front of us? I was going to make a few more closing comments if no one else has any. It's kind of been said a lot through our questions on the comment, on the actual motion there, but, just great work by the agency, just again, being able to pivot and find dollars that I think a couple board members even said, even you deputy commissioner, we're not, this disaster relief isn't our forte. But I think it just goes to show how dynamic and great this agency is to be able to be like, oh, we can use this, we can find a way, and we're gonna help our communities because we are our communities. So just, hat off to everyone at the agency for working really, in a couple of weeks to pull off a program like this and design it. It's incredible. So just thank you to all of you. With that, we'll look for a motion to approve resolution 25-001.
So moved.
Moved by Representative Scrabble, and second by Senator Housechild. With that, Sarah, please take the roll.
Senator Champion,
Aye.
Senator Rackburn,
Aye.
Senator Farnsworth, Senator Farnsworth, Senator Housechild,
Aye.
Representative Davis,
Aye.
Representative Weigel,
Aye.
Representative Lissagard.
Aye.
Representative Scrabble.
Aye.
There's 7 yeses, 1 excused.
All right, with that, the motion prevails. With that, we'll move to the end here. Is there any closing comments by the deputy commissioner?
I don't, just thank you so much for your response to this as well. Staff did a lot of work on this and this was a great discussion and appreciate the change that you made.
Thank you, deputy commissioner. Thank you again to the staff. With that,
Mr. Chair,
Oh, sorry, Senator Farnsworth.
I apologize. It looks like I missed the vote. I am actually on 2 Zoom calls at once. I have another subcommittee meeting, so if it's not too late, I would like to vote yes on that.
Can we make that change, Sarah?
Yes, we have 8 yeses.
We have made the change, Senator Farnsworth. You have voted affirmatively.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, we are adjourned.
Mr. Chair, may I 1 second?
Representative Scrabble.
Thank you. Sorry. I just want to thank everyone, the staff and that. I haven't had a chance to do that. I was in the meeting up in Cook the other day with that Chris put on. Excellent meeting with all the stakeholders and everybody. The dedication is very noted. So I'm glad everyone is working together on this. And I look forward to helping other people in the communities when this happens again. But thank you again.
Thank you, Representative Scrabble. We are still adjourned.
We're still adjourned.